I am Georgia. I am an example and an iteration of its history, of its pain and its promise, of the brutality and the possibility. But because this is America, and because we always have a path to make our country greater against unspeakable odds, here we stand together. Thank you, Georgia.
Last night, Georgia made history a couple times over. In re-electing Warnock, Georgia elected its first full-term black senator, and it ensured that all incumbent Democratic senators kept their seats while expanding the Democratic majority in the Senate. Today, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer welcomed Senator Warnock back to the Capitol for a bit of a victory lap. From the top of the Capitol steps, Warnock announced, "Georgia did it again." Earlier in the day, before he stood outside the Capitol, Schumer made clear why he thinks Democrats were able to make history: MAGA Republicans. As the Republican Party has scrambled to sort out some kind of anti-racist message in a party whose leader has been known to give white supremacy a seat at the table, quite literally, the reality is that the Democratic Party is sending back to the upper chamber the first black senator from the state of Georgia. It is extending the tenure of the 11th black senator in the chamber's history, and it is solidifying a diverse coalition. The people who voted for Raphael Warnock, who stood in those hours-long lines in a truncated runoff period, they were black people, they were mixed-race people, and Asian people, and Hispanic people, and white people. That is the coalition Raphael Warnock is representing. If Raphael Warnock is Georgia, he is also the Democratic Party. And joining us now is one of the 11 black people ever to sit in the Senate who also is in the Democratic Party, our senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker. I wonder what lesson you think people should take away from the events of last night as it concerns Democrats and Republicans.
Well, there's not just one lesson. There's a lot of things that worked in Raphael Warnock's favor, from, as Mitch McConnell said, we have a candidate selection problem, to the fact that we got so much done. Here's a guy 2 years in the Senate, and he was able to get extraordinary things done. As I joked with Sherrod Brown today, he said he got a call after we passed the child tax credit, the biggest middle-class tax credit in all of American history. They went to 90% of Americans with children. And Sherrod had been working on his whole career. Raphael was joking with him, "Hey, man, I got it done in my first few months." So he led a lot of big bills, bipartisan bills, and that's another thing that's really important. In addition to that, we have a nation that has been showing, state after state, that this right-wing MAGA overreach, whether it's seen in the Dobbs decision and the bans on abortion, even in cases of rape and incest, all the way to the insulting things that have been done to try to limit people's access to voting. And so a lot of these things lined up, but I think perhaps the biggest one that I don't see being talked about enough is just how of an amazing person that Raphael Warnock is. Yeah, he's one of the 11 black people that serve, but this institution has never seen someone like him. He is a pastor of Martin Luther King's church. I think he's the only of the 100 of us that was arrested protesting in the Senate for the expansion of health care. He is a moral leader first, not a politician. And I think that now that he has a full term, his already extraordinary first 2 years are going to seem pale in comparison, the kind of grandeur that he's going to bring at a time that we are in a moral moment in America and need more moral leaders that can raise their voices and speak to the moral imagination of a country.